Welcome back, Nordanger students, to this constructing activity about dominating the DOM. And in this, we're going to identify that the DOM, or the Document Object Module, is the way the browser interprets HTML. Use our knowledge of JavaScript to integrate this code into different parts of the HTML to change the outcome of the web page. And so a bit about the DOM. The DOM stands for the Document Object Model. Without going into too much detail, the DOM is the way a web browser represents all the HTML code that you write. We can use programming languages, in our case JavaScript, to change the DOM and therefore change the way the HTML is displayed to the user. Now I've created our template in Notepad++. We've got our tags identifying the different sections. We've got our HTML, we've got a head with our title, and we've got our body here. And this time I've got, I'm using a div this time to for our little containers. We've got a container here called container, and I've got some text which says welcome to the DOM. And then I've got my script this time inside our body. Rather than in the head, I've got it inside the body, because anything that is run, when you open up the website, it will run the head first and then it will do the stuff in the body. So this is where you want this stuff will go in the body. And what I want to do is that when it runs, it's going to then welcome you. And so I'm going to type this bit of code here. I'm going to create a variable called container, which coincidentally is the same name as the container itself. It will then say document, get the element by ID container, which is this container, so it gets that. And within that container, it will then add the text, hi there user. So if I run this, I go to Chrome and I'm going to refresh it. It will then say, hi there user, welcome to the DOM. Okay. Likewise, let's create another one. Okay, let's call container 2. So I'm going to copy this. A lot of this you can just copy. So I'm going to copy this and call this container 2. Let's just go backwards there. And I'm going to do the same again. So I'm going to copy this line of code, these two lines. And instead of being var container, I'm going to call this container 2. I'm going to get the div container 2. And let's put h2 for this one. So heading 2 style. And welcome to this quiz. Okay, let's put an exclamation mark, save it, and I'm going to run this. And this it says welcome to this quiz. It's removed the first one. Let's have a look why. So I've got container here. It's got container 2, which is fine. That's good. Container.inner HTML. Wait there. I've got container here, which is linking. I need to change that to container 2. So it's same name. Okay. So if I run this again, there we go. Hi there, user. Welcome to the DOM. Welcome to this quiz. And because I put it, this container div, after the welcome to DOM, it will then put it after. Okay. Very simple little way of doing that. So at the moment, it's not very personal. Let's try and get some information, some data from the user itself. So let's add a variable, and we're going to say username. So we're going to ask for their name or their username, for example, and we're going to say window.prompt, because we're going to ask the user to tell me what their name is. Okay. So, hello user, what is your name? And we're going to close this. So we're collecting some data, and we're going to store this as a variable called user name. Okay. I then need to basically get this inside a within the contents here. So I need to get it into our body itself. So I need to have a variable display username here, and of course this is going to get my document ID, so I can copy this here. But of course, something I've just noticed is I'm creating this variable called display username, and it's going to get the element ID, which is the username, but there's no element ID here. So we need to create a new div. So let's just copy this div, and then let's change the container to display username here. So it's getting this value. Remember, you've got to remember to get the capital letters and the lowercase letters completely correct. Okay. And then finally, once you've got that, then we can then take the container part, and I can replace the container name because that's connected to the actual container name. We're going to call this display user name, and it will then say hi there for this, and we're going to close speech marks. We'll put a plus sign here, and we'll say username, and we'll put another plus sign. Actually, we don't need a plus sign there. We can put a plus sign because it's got to put the H1 here as well. And so if I save that, and if I go back and I refresh, it asks me, let's put my name in, and it says hi there Anthony, which is great. So instead of being hi there user, it's put hi there Anthony. I can modify this a bit. So as you can see here, I've got view username, the username, still got my container down here. Let's change this a bit. So instead of having that username, I can then basically put, let's just copy this part, and we can just paste it here. Let's put a space, and we can delete this. So if I save this now, I'm going to delete that display username. If I refresh, I can put my name, and this saying hi there Anthony. And we can do this with all sorts of data. So maybe we want to collect their address, their age, etc., and do play around with that. The next part is to look at functions. And we've gone back to using our script within our head area. We've got a div ID here inside the body, so our container in the body. And what should happen is that when we run this, it will basically get the ID, and then it will display your function worked. But of course, when I run this now, nothing happens, because it'll do the head first, and of course when it does the head, does the properties first, it can't find the output, okay, because this is done last. A function, basically, just a bit of explanation what a function is. A function is something that you can write code that you repeat over and over again, and it will it will repeat it. So you can reuse code over and over again without needing to type it. So, but we need a way of, once this runs, then we can then run a function. So this is where I need to create a function within this script. I still need these 2 lines of code. So in order to do that, I could just type function to identify that I'm going to create a function. The name of that function with open and close brackets here. This would contain any variables I'm going to pass through, but in this case, nothing. And then I've got these 2 lines of code. So this time, once I run this, I will then be able to run the function repeatedly over and over again. So let's go back to Google Chrome. And if I refresh it, nothing happens. But let's just make sure I've saved that. And refresh, nothing happens. But if I open up the developer tools, I can type the name of this function in. I'm going to copy this and it'll run. If I do it again, and it won't keep typing your function work, but it will basically, it's put what I want onto the web page. It's run that, which is exactly what I would like. And we could do the same thing again for, let's say, taking data from the user. So for example, let's create another div ID. And we're going to say username out, which will take the output of the user. And let's just copy this and I'm going to call this username. So in this case, I'm going to say username out. Again, we want to get these need to be linked together to that container, like so. And we want to basically, when we run this function, we want to ask the user for their name, and then we want to store it within, we want to then display it on the screen. So let's take the variable, we'll create a variable called username, and we're going to say window.prompt and what is your name? Like there. So it's taking the it's asking a question, it's going to store it as username, and we're going to say, instead of saying this, we're going to say hello space plus username plus, and then we'll put speech marks there. So if I save that and I go to Chrome and I'm going to refresh it, nothing's happening. So if I type username, it even tells me here, open close bracket, a message comes to the screen. I type my name, I press OK, and it says, hello, Anthony. Great. So I can do it that way. The only trouble is, unless I know that there's this secret place, there's this secret code to do this, any user, the general user, will not know how to do this. So how is this going to connect to creating this further? Okay, so we can see that we can take values from the user, but of course at the moment I'm having to type it into the console in order to call up the messaging bots. Well, what happens if I could have a text box on the screen that I could enter in, and then it then puts the data on the screen or it'll store it. Well, that's possible. That's easy. So let's create a text box. And on the screen, I've created a text box, which is going to be an input. It's a type text, and I've given it the name ID username in, which is great. In the function username, instead of being var username equals Windows prompt, I want it to take it from this input. So I can remove the window prompt and just put document get element ID, okay? And this time it'll get element ID, which will be input username in, and it'll say dot the value of that, which is great. So it'll take the value, and then it will then put the username out underneath, which will be username. So it will get it, the value from that input and store it as the variable, and then the username out then becomes the username, which is great. So we've done that, but still I need to run that function. So I need to add a bit of code down the bottom here that will automatically run that function. So I need to, after this ID, I need to now say on change equals, and so on change equals, and in speech marks, I need to type the name of the function I want to run, which is username. And if I save this now, I should be able to run this. If I open this up, it gives me this box. If I type my name, I should be able to do this. Doesn't quite work there. Let's have a look. So that didn't quite work. So when I click on this, I should be able to click anywhere and it should show my name, but it doesn't. So what have I done wrong? Let's go back and let's have a look. Okay, so it says username, which should link to the function that it's going to run. So what's the name of the function? The function is username with a capital N. So I need to put that. Okay. And the other thing I remember is when I had to type in the console, I had to also put open close brackets after the name of the function. So if we save that now, we go back into Chrome and refresh it, type my name in, okay, click anywhere in this browser and it will now put Hello Anthony. So that opens this up to us now creating other text boxes on this screen, which is great. Thank you very much for watching, Lord Angus students, and look forward to seeing you in the consolidation task.